the Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. Jesus took Peter, James, and John and led them up a high mountain apart by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his clothes became dazzling white, appeared to them along with Moses, and they were conversing with Jesus. And Peter said to Jesus in reply, "Rabbi, it is good that we are here. Let us make 3 tents, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." He hardly knew what to say. They were so terrified. Then a cloud came, casting a shadow over them. And from the cloud came a voice, "This is my beloved Son. Listen to him." Suddenly, looking around, they no longer saw anyone but Jesus alone with them. As they were coming down from the mountain, he charged them not to relate what they had seen to anyone, except when the Son of Man had risen from the dead. So they kept the matter to themselves, questioning what rising from the dead meant. The Gospel of the Lord.
The first reading comes from chapter 22 of the book of Genesis. It's the story of Abraham who goes to sacrifice his son Isaac. And actually that story is depicted here on this side of the altar. If you ever saw it up close, maybe after Mass you take a look. As Abraham with the knife in his hand and Isaac carrying the wood for it to be sacrificed upon, and the angel of the Lord as well. And the other side of the altar, of course, has the New Testament companion to that, which is Jesus carrying the wood of his cross. God spares Isaac. God will not spare his own son. Isaac and Jesus both carry the wood upon their back, upon which they're supposed to be sacrificed. So maybe after Mass you look more closely at the altar, a nice piece of artwork that we have. It was certainly a dark and a sad day for Abraham when God requested of him to take his son, his beloved son Isaac, and to sacrifice him. We know, as the book of Genesis tells us, it was a test of Abraham's faith. And whether or not Abraham knew from the beginning it was a test, whether he knew that or not, we don't know. But Abraham goes reluctantly. It's not his preferred thing to do. It's not at all what he wants to do, to sacrifice his beloved son. But Abraham goes. And maybe it's only after the fact, later on, that he realizes that this was a test, especially when the angel of the Lord stays his hand and doesn't allow him to kill his son Isaac. I think in our own lives, all kinds of tests come our way. And maybe some of these tests come from God, but I would say most of the tests come from life and from people. I think life throws a lot of tests our way. Things like sickness and ultimately death. Neither of those things come from God. Natural disasters that kill innocent people. Another test that comes to us from life. I think maybe even more tests come to us from other people. And maybe you can make a list, maybe a long list of all the people who test you, right? Who test all your good virtues and in some ways are kind of like tempting you to sin in some ways. A lot of people in life, ones we know and ones we don't know, test us. Difficult people at times. And while we're never asked to sacrifice the ones we love most, either literally or figuratively, the tests in our lives come in a variety of forms. I think one of the biggest tests for many people is patience, right? My patience is being tested is a very common phrase. And it's a test that leads us maybe to anger, angry words and angry actions and thoughts, impatience, or though maybe it's something also that we learn to overcome where we become more calm and peaceful and patient persons. Sometimes it's a test of trust. It can be trust for a variety of people in a variety of ways. Maybe trust in your spouse, and not so much for issues of fidelity or not, but just the small things in trust. Trust you'll be there with me to the end, in sickness and in health, till death do us part. Sometimes little things, little areas of trust. I think maybe trusting your children to make mature decisions, whether they're 17 years old or 47 years old, you still want to trust that they make good and mature decisions in their lives. You want to trust them that they choose a good boyfriend or girlfriend, that they end up choosing a good spouse. You want to trust the people who have made promises to you. You want to trust the people to whom you've confided something secret or at least personal in your own life. Trust they won't share that with the whole world. You want to trust in people even when it seems otherwise. We want to have that kind of faith, that kind of abiding trust in one another. And sometimes that's one of the tests we have, right? Our trust in one another is put to the test. I think sometimes we're trusted to have faith in God. Again, especially with things like sickness and death, where we're not sure if God is present or if he'll carry us all the way through this to the end. Sometimes I think there's a series of misfortunes in life which test us as well. Could be a divorce that you've gone through, or the loss of your home, the loss of your job, the leaky roof, or all the expenses that hit at the same time. Sometimes a lot of things come to us at once in our lives. And it's a test of our patience and our trust and of our faith in God. I think sometimes God's goodness is put to the test, especially when it comes to those who are innocent and naive in some ways. Maybe God's goodness in your past was put to the test because of some kind of past abuse that you've suffered. Or maybe it's an unloved or a difficult childhood that you might have had. Or maybe what someone has done to you or what someone has said to you caused you to trust in God's goodness. Maybe some of the fears that you have in your own life, old, long-time fears, or ones that are new. Or maybe just the truth about yourself makes you doubt God's goodness. Lord, I want to change, but I can't change. Why aren't you helping me to change? And so these things in our lives are not only dark and sad times in our lives, but they're also tests. And they're tests because you can fail them, right? We can fail these tests. And by failing it, you would just leave it alone, bury it, don't confront it, carry it for years or for decades, right? Just carry it with you the whole time. Don't even think about confronting the test. You can let it embitter you, and therefore you can make bitter the people around you as well. You can live in fear the rest of your life. Those are maybe some of the ways that we don't pass the test. Or, because it's a test, you can pass it. Maybe by passing it, it might mean that you put it behind you. Abraham passed the test in the first reading. The angel of the Lord says, I know you are devoted to me because you withheld nothing from me. Abraham passed. And maybe you and I pass when we can pass over these things as well. When we leave them behind us, when we've dealt with them, they're not part of our lives. We've confronted it. We've learned the lesson we need to, and we move forward in our lives. And it's no longer part of my past. It's no longer part of my present. Something that's behind me, and it's shaped me, and it's formed me, and it's made me a better person, but not bitter. I'm not going to be bitter about these things anymore in my life. Mary Oliver said, someone I know once gave me a box of darkness. It was years before I realized it was also a gift. Powerful words on her part. Someone I know hurt me, did something bad to me. And at the time, it was darkness, complete, utter darkness. And it wasn't until years later that I realized that there was a gift in there somewhere as well. Maybe the person didn't intend to give me a gift, but it was a gift in some ways. So, who gave you a box of darkness? That is, who's put you to the test? And maybe more importantly, what was the test? What was in the box of darkness? Abuse, fear, pain, sadness, despair, sin. What was in the box of darkness? God, I think, teaches us that he can use anything in our lives to be transformed or transfigured like Jesus was on the mount in today's gospel. Anything God can use in our life. Anything good and even anything bad. It can all work for good for those who believe and for those who have faith in God. This Lent, maybe there are about 32 days or so remaining, roughly. So maybe you can do this. Go back into the closet of your heart. Way back in the closet, where you don't normally go, because it's a little scary and a little bit uncomfortable there. And take one box of darkness off the shelf. Just one box, because we have a lot, don't we? A lot of boxes of darkness in our hearts. Take one box off the shelf. Open the box, maybe the biggest of the boxes, and sit with it in your lap. And with Jesus at your side, peel back the darkness and discover the gift.